So I'm starting this painting. This is the second layer. I'll be working with burnt sienna, some ultramarine blue, I'll just give you a rundown of how I mix my colors here. Having a little bit of the color chart that I'm mixing in front of me helps a little bit. Pyrrole red light here. Sometimes it's easier to mix a color, especially since I'm using a monitor rather than a photograph. I can mix the color and compare it to the color and value that I'm trying to mix on my little chart. That's permanent yellow light. And this is a permanent red violet light. There are lots of cool pinks. I'm using yellowish green as well. I like to mute my skin tones with a lime green color. You could, of course, mix a green using turquoise blue and yellow, but it's easier to have a lighter value green here already. And that, of course, is titanium white. So I start with an idea of the kind of cooler flesh tones, and I'll mix a pile of color, and often I separate some of it aside if I'm getting too big a pile. So because I know what value I want approximately, I can hold it up to the chart and get myself going in the right direction. And because it's a middle value, the lime green, the yellowish green, helps to neutralize it a little bit. And I'll start mixing another flesh color, just a little bit warmer, not quite as neutral. I find it easiest to have pre-mixed colors, just of various piles of colors that I can dip into. When they're all quite similar in value, I can just use the same brush, dipping from one to the other. Or if there's quite a color change, then I can use a separate brush. And I'll just continue to mix progressively lighter skin tones. Some of them cooler, some of them warmer. Some areas of the face will be redder, like around the nose. I'll have the lips to deal with. The fingers will be a little bit redder than the lighter parts in the hand, so I'll need some brighter colors, some lighter colors, some warmer colors. And if I get too big a pile, as I mentioned, I will separate some of it out, and I will sometimes use the rest of it to tint other colors, or sometimes the color I've separated works out well in some areas. When I lighten, I almost always add some yellow. Rarely will I just add white. When I get to mixing the color for her coat, it will be the magenta color with mostly white added, but a lot of times, because a lot of the skin tones are naturally quite warm, I will just make sure that I add some yellow as I add the white. If you run into trouble with skin tones looking pasty, it's usually too much white and not enough warm colors. There are only subtle variations in value on this little girl's face. Only one or two values to work with here, so I will mix myself several different colors, some with a little more red in it, some with a little more yellow in it, some with a little more of the green in it. And then I'll use the variations of color to indicate the changing planes in the face. And by comparison, this next color is going to look quite green, but it will be useful when I start painting, just for subtle areas. Subtle changes of plane on her face. I'll also mix up some reddish colors for her lips. I'll need a darker color for the line where her top lip meets her bottom lip, a brighter color for her lip itself, and a lighter color for a little bit of highlight. Just comparing to my color chart, a nice warm color for her lips. And I can add a touch of the green if I need it to be a little bit more neutral. You'll notice I don't use a lot of the earth tones. I like to use brighter colors, and then I can always make them more muted if I want to. It's very easy to mute a color. If you start with a muted color, you can't make it bright. And mixing just a few warm darks for the creases in her fingers, for the different eyelids, things like that. Anywhere that I'll need a little bit of a warmer dark. Couple different variations so that they don't have to all be as dark. Again, really easy to neutralize. And you'll see I've pretty much used up that excess pile that was just extra paint I had mixed up too much of.